Not falling in love with a straight guy was always my rule number one. So tell me why I am in love with my son's best friend's straight dad. Trigger warning. This story contains mentions of violence, past trauma, and abuse. Are you seriously getting me arrested? Where's the love you claim to have for me right now? Were the last words shouted by my ex-husband Terry before the cops took him away. I breathed heavily, holding my breath for who knows how long. Tears formed in my eyes, and I held our adopted son Juan closer. The car started and drove away, blue and red lights turning into a kaleidoscope in front of my teary eyes. I stood in our driveway for a moment, my heart thundering in my ear. Juan squeezed my hand and said, "Dad, I think that we need to go back in." I disagreed. "We need to get to the hospital right now," August chimed in. His voice brought me back to earth and wrapped around me like a warm blanket. "We usually use the first aid kit," Juan responded to August. I looked between my son and August, the man who had just saved me from a violent scuffle with my ex-husband Terry. That evening, Juan and I were peacefully eating dinner when Terry showed up very upset because our son Juan did not want to see him. He accused me of turning Juan against him and started demanding for Juan to come with him. I told Terry to leave multiple times, but he disregarded my request. He argued with me even more and said hateful words yet again. I hated arguing in front of Juan, so I told him, "Juan, please go to your room. Your dads need to talk." Juan obliged, as always, and left me with Terry. "If Juan does not want to see you, I cannot force him," I said softly, not wanting to cause a scene. "It is all because of you, Harry. You are just so bitter that things cannot go your way. I have been nothing but a good man to you. I have been a wonderful husband and father. Out of the blue, you have decided to discard me? You may throw me away, but you cannot stop me from seeing my son. Did you forget that we adopted him together?" he screamed, veins popping from his neck. I felt a shift in the air because his energy was suddenly darker. I went and poured some juice for him and handed it to him. "Dear, please calm down. You can come back tomorrow and we can talk to Juan. He is just a bit upset with you right now, okay?" I said in my calmest voice as I handed the glass to him. Quickly, he smacked the glass out of my hands. "I do not want you flipping calm words. You are worthless, and one day Juan will realize it," he seethed, hate filling his eyes. I could not believe that those were the same eyes I once fell in love with. "Enough! Get out of my house, Terry," I screamed as I pointed at the door. Suddenly, he went really quiet. Then he single-handedly flipped my coffee table. That was just the start. He proceeded to pick up anything he could get his hands on and throw it at me. "Terry, please stop," I begged as I was transported back to the past and how he used to treat me. Terry did not stop. His actions fueled his anger and he moved on to me. I tried my hardest to defend myself, but Terry was a big man. His strength had once amazed me, but now I feared it. I do not know how long this went on, but suddenly it stopped. When I looked up, Terry had been sprung across the room. He was standing there seething for a moment before he set his sight on August. August was our son's best friend Eric's dad. I remembered him from the few parent evenings that I had seen him at. My mind scrambled to make sense of how he was here. He had appeared at the right time like a knight in shining armor. Terry and August ended up having a scuffle, but August held his own. He was not as big as Terry, but he was much faster. I was frozen in my place watching them fight. The entire time I was focused on how August moved, like a literal knight. It was like something out of a fairy tale. I was shaken out of my catatonic state by the sound of the cops. As soon as they entered, August pointed at Terry and he was taken away. He said his last words to me as he was taken away, and they saddened me. Once I used to believe he loved me, but I did not recognize this monster being taken away from the cops. I had covered up for him and his abuse for several years until I knew it was enough. He did not take the divorce well, and he has been making my life hell ever since. Since the divorce, he has not laid hands on me, and I was focusing on my healing. Now, 8 months later, he had rehashed the trauma I went through. Now, back to the present, my son and my savior were asking me what we had to do. For the first time ever, I said, "Let us go to the hospital," as I smiled at August. Juan squeezed my hand in support and understanding after I said that. A week later, I got a text as I was about to drive to Juan's school and fetch him. I was extremely tired from my second job and resolved to get an energy drink as soon as possible. Just then, I received a text. "Hey Harry, I hope you have been well. I know it is last minute, but Eric wanted to ask if Juan can come over after school. They have a project they are working on together for school. My heart skipped a beat when I realized that it was August. His heroic act had played in my mind over and over again, so it was a bit of surprise when he texted me. Sure, that would be lovely. I was actually about to fetch Juan. I can fetch him after they are done with the project instead, I asked. I will bring him. Do not worry. Juan says you have been very tired lately. You should get some rest, he responded. Okay, thank you, I shot off the text. I cannot believe it. Once again, my knight in shining armor saved me, and I actually got a much-needed break. I had a 5 a.m. shift the next day and a meal prep to do. Without having to pick up Juan, I could save some time. I immediately drove home and took a much-needed nap. A couple of hours later, I sneezed out of nowhere and was immediately awakened from my sleep. When I looked up, I noticed Juan smiling over at me. Wakey wakey, he smiled sweetly. What time is it? I groggily asked as I sat up. I stopped breathing when I saw August standing just behind Juan looking at me. Oh my god, I overslept and did not get to cook. I swear I am much more organized than this, I laughed in embarrassment. Don't worry, I ate. I'm going to take a shower. See you, Dad, Juan said just as he left. I sat up so that I could greet August. Hi. Thank you so much for taking care of him today. How have you been? Sorry for the mess around the house because I have not been able to do anything since I took a nap, I explained. He just smiled easily and said, I figured you needed the break. Between court and having to work, I don't think you are catching a break. His calm mood was such a contrast to my chaotic one. Yeah, I did not want to press charges, but Terry crossed a massive line. I thought I was done with courts when we got divorced. I sighed from exasperation. He chuckled a bit and responded, Rather you than me. I never want to see the inside of a courtroom. My divorce dragged on for too long. I am glad that you left him, though. Things will get better with time. His kind words warmed my heart. I wanted to properly thank you for helping me out that night. Honestly, if Juan had not called Eric, that man would have done much worse to me, I said gratefully. His kind eyes made me feel incredibly safe in that moment. We shared momentary eye contact, but it felt much longer. I would have done it for anyone. You are a wonderful dad to Juan. I did not have to think about it, he shrugged. One day I hope to return the favor, I responded. I would do anything for that man who stood up for me when no one was around. Do not worry about it. I must go now, but I'm glad you're doing better, Harry, he said, and left. 2 weeks later, August's words helped to encourage me over the next 2 weeks. I was doing so much better, even if I was all on my own. Being a dad to a 13-year-old was not easy, but I was managing, and it was thanks to the small ways in which he helped me. Some days he would text me and tell me not to worry about picking up Juan because he would do it. He told me Juan told Eric that I had to attend afternoon court, so he figured I would be tired afterwards. I was not used to receiving help, so it made me feel a bit awkward at first. The second time he helped me, I brought it up with him. Hi, can I give you something for your help? I feel so bad that you have to go out of your way to help me, I said when I saw him in the morning at the school gate. He simply flashed me that gorgeous smile of his and said, Never. Your house is already in the same direction as mine. It is the least I can do. And then he rubbed my shoulder reassuringly. I could not help but feel warm inside. I felt his touch burn for another hour after I left him. I could not believe that he was helping me and he wanted nothing for it. That was the total opposite of Terry. Terry always wanted me to drop what I was doing for him and complained when I asked him to do a little task. He had made me allergic to asking anyone for help because I was used to his snarky responses. I decided to leave it at that with August. He was just helping me to get back on my feet, nothing much. A week later, after several more court appearances, I was granted a restraining order from Terry and he got a year in prison for assault. I asked August to be one of my witnesses since he saw what happened, and that really helped to strengthen my case. As soon as the court was adjourned, I made a beeline for August. He surprised me by giving me a long, warm hug. You did it! I am so proud of you, he said in a muffled voice. We have to celebrate, I exclaimed, and I saw Juan light up. I agree. All four of us should do something tonight. I will text you with the recommendations, August informed me. Triumphantly, all four of us left the court and went home. As soon as we got home, I hopped into the shower and started getting ready. While I was looking at my face after the shower, I could not recognize myself. Somehow, during all of the madness, I managed to forget to shave my beard. Now I was looking like a lion. I immediately shaved my beard and was relieved when my own face was staring back at me. I was singing and over the moon the whole time. When Juan saw me, he laughed. "I look terrible?" I asked. "You look nice, like you are going on a date," he explained. "We are going to dinner with your friend and his dad." "I do not know what you mean," I rolled my eyes annoyedly. "Are you sure that you are not looking nice for Eric's dad? He is no longer with Eric's mom, and you left dad, so..." He shrugged. I looked at this child in disbelief. "I did not think I would be having this conversation with you. Eric's dad likes women. He is straight. I am not looking nice for him," I explained. Juan nodded, as if he understood, then left the room. The next day, dinner with Eric's dad was very nice. The kids went to their own little corner and left us alone shortly after dinner. August and I were left to converse alone. I have never had a conversation longer than 10 minutes with him, so it was interesting to talk to him. I forgot the whole world when I was talking to him due to how entertaining he was. When I went home, I could not stop thinking about him. I could also not stop thinking of my son's words. Was it possible that I had a crush on August? It could not be. I had one rule for myself, and that was the fact that I could never allow myself to fall for a straight man. That journey would only lead to heartbreak, and I was not a masochist. I decided to put those crazy thoughts out of my mind when right on cue, he called me. I stared at the phone, panicking a little bit. "Hey," I answered the phone. "Hi, Harry. I hope you are well." So it turns out that I barbecued much more meat than I needed. Some friends were supposed to come over, but they failed. "Would you and Juan be interested in coming over?" he asked. "Yes, of course, we are on our way," I grinned as I accepted the invitation without hesitation. I hung up the phone and then went to look for Juan. A couple hours later, when I got there, Eric was screaming his lungs out and a woman was running up and down. I silently greeted everyone and searched for August. "Calm down, Eric. Your dad is fine," the woman said. I gave her a perplexed look and she explained. "I am August's cousin, Teresa. August got a bit of a burn. My husband is helping him out," she explained. "And who is minding the grill?" I asked and watched as her eyes widened. I left her there and followed the smell of meat. I got there just in time and was able to save the meat. The lady came to fetch the pieces that I had already barbecued and talk some more. I quickly got to work on the meat while making small talk with Teresa. Juan and Eric had disappeared somewhere into the house, so it was just the two of us. It did not take me long to finish up, and then I went to check on August. I followed Eric's directions and found August in his bedroom. He was sitting by the bed and staring off into space. "Hey, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" I exclaimed. I did not even wait for a response. I made a beeline to his side. I inspected his hand, and he winced a little bit. "Just checking if we need to go to the hospital. You seem okay," I explained. "Well, good thing, because at least now I have a dashing nurse to look after me. By the way, that tie brings out your eyes," he complimented me. Of course I blushed, but he was not done. Shy are we?" "Cute." His words were so out of the blue. "You are awfully vocal today. How many beers did you have?" I asked suspiciously. "Ooh, the pain meds must be setting in. I feel hungry," he said in a matter-of-fact voice. He looked up at me with the most adorable puppy dog eyes, and I chuckled in amusement. Right on cue, Juan appeared with a plate. "I wasn't sure if you were feeling better enough to come down, so I had Juan bring up the food," I explained. He nodded in a docile manner as I took the food from Juan. Juan left and August eagerly took the plate from me. He tried to maneuver himself in a way that would make it easy for him to eat the food, but he failed. Suddenly, he dropped the piece of meat he was holding. I figured that the meds were affecting his reflexes. I took the plate from him and started to feed him. "No need to hurt yourself while I'm here. I know, you are a grown man and would hate to be fed, but now you are hungry and your hands is bandaged. Allow me to help you," I suggested, already expecting some kind of protest. I was surprised when he just nodded with no protest. This small action of his made me marvel at how non-argumentative he was. He said some things that made me blush, but I attributed it to his condition. The fact that when I finished feeding him, he said, "Thank you, cutie," meant nothing right. He eventually fell asleep. I tucked him in and then I left. I could not stop thinking about feeding him. It was an act I enjoyed, maybe because it brought attention to his lips. That image played over and over in my head when I went home. There was no denying it. I was developing a fascination with August. I was not sure if I wanted to stop it in its tracks or slightly indulge it. Didn't I deserve to fantasize too? A day later, the morning after the barbecue, I woke up to a voice note from August. I got extremely nervous for no reason at all. I was not quite sure what to expect when I opened it. Hey, I am sorry for being a terrible host. I remember that you were kind enough to take care of me until I fell asleep. I am so embarrassed right now. You must think so little of me. I invited you over, but you ended up barbecuing the meat. I just wanted to thank you for what you did. To be honest, it has been a while since someone took care of me. You did it so perfectly. I could not stop smiling due to how adorable he sounded. I quickly responded, "It was nothing. You have done so much for me. We have to help each other as single dads. Do not even feel embarrassed. I would do it again. Apparently, I make for a dashing nurse," I responded. He replied with a shy face emoji, and the conversation ended. I had a pep in my step for the rest of the day. I did not see August again until about a week later. I did not see him all week because he was away for work, so I missed him a lot. I found myself remembering his very distinctive scent, how his smile was a little lopsided when he found something practically amazing, and how he was always taking care of all of those around him. Every spare moment I got, I wondered whether Juan was right about us. But then I ran into him when I was looking for a gift for my supervisor who was retiring. Suddenly, a simplistic but beautiful notebook caught my eye, and I made a beeline for it. As soon as I got my hands on it, a larger hand enclosed over mine. I looked up at this notebook thief, unprepared to meet August's eyes. I tried to remove my hand from the book, but his hand was too tightly placed over mine. It took him a split second to realize what was going on before he removed his hand. "What a strong grip you have there," I commented, wishing for the awkward silence to end. I've been told his voice was particularly low, and he practically pinned me to that spot without touching me. "I'm sure it has had its advantages in the past," I carried on a bit too playfully. "Who knew?" "You sound so overly curious about that," August raised an eyebrow. I was lost for words and merely looked away. My cheeks were probably burning by now, so it was best for me to avert my eyes. "Since you touched it first, you can have the notebook," August offered. "Are you sure? I could get something else," I tried to be courteous. "Upon looking at that notebook, it seems a little simple for the person I am buying it for," he explained. I simply nodded, took the book, and got on my way. My nerves prevented me from spending another minute in his presence. Later that evening, upon returning home, I decided to check on the boys. I came around the corner of the backyard and I heard Eric say, "Her name is Chrissy. She is always calling him and has been at our house a lot this week. I know for a fact that he is dating his coworker." "How would you feel about a stepmom?" Juan asked. My heart sank as I realized that they were talking about August. I suddenly felt a bit teary, so I turned back. I scolded myself for even thinking that he could be interested in me. He was an eligible bachelor, and there were tons of women interested in him. It was bound to happen that one of them would make a move on him. I was just a guy who also fell for his charm, but I never stood a chance. I decided from then on I would only be professional. I would avoid spending unnecessary time with him and would find a way to get over my crush. Avoiding August proved nearly impossible after what I found out. I still felt the sting of finding out that he was in a relationship, which made facing him harder. When he came to fetch Eric later that evening, I pretended to be very busy and acted nonchalantly with him. Usually I would offer some soda or snacks, then we would talk about our days. He tried to make casual conversation while Eric packed, but I was quite short with him. 2 weeks later, I spent the next 2 weeks trying to keep my feelings in check. It was so difficult because all he did was talk about Chrissy. Any hope I had that Eric misunderstood August's friendship with Chrissy was crushed. It was clear that he was in love with her and he had moved on. The best way to deal with this was to avoid him. Every time our conversation got too deep, I pretended like I was tired or had some work to do. He seemed even more enthusiastic to talk to me and kept on inviting me out for a drink, but I said no each time. Little did I know that my lies were coming back to bite me. Juan was at a play date. I was free and decided to get myself some cake at the coffee shop when I got a text from August that read, "Hey, want to grab a bite? Eric is with his aunt. There is something that I want to discuss with you." What could he have to say? Had Juan said something to him about how I felt? If that was the case, then I could not see him. "Sure, Can we meet tomorrow, though? I'm stuck in traffic. Then I went ahead and ordered my food. I was peacefully eating my food when suddenly someone said, "Well, traffic cleared up pretty quickly." I froze when I realized who was behind me. I turned around and caught August's eye. "I am so sorry," I began. "Did I do something to creep you out?" he asked in a hurt voice. "Never. It is complicated. Please sit," I insisted. He sat down and regarded me with a confused expression. "Tell me what I did so I can rectify it. Did I say something the night I was on pain meds?" he pressed. I was completely floored. Here I sat with so many things I wish he knew, but I knew that if I dared to utter them, I would lose him. When I looked at him, I imagined so much of our future together. It was something that could never be possible, which pained me. "It is complicated. You would not understand," I sighed. Suddenly he scoffed. "Wow, I guess I was reading things wrong then. I thought we were friends," August sighed. "We are, but I'm still processing the fact that you have someone in your life right now," I blurted out. "Says the person who made me think there was chemistry between us when there was not." "Are you going to make me say it, Harry? I have grown to really like you as a friend. I had a feeling you felt the same way," he blurted out. My mouth dropped open. "You have a girlfriend, Chrissy. Stop confusing me." I got a bit annoyed. "She is a coworker. I like you. I thought you liked me too," he asked as if it was the most obvious thing ever. "Why did you not ask me out on a date then?" "I've been wanting to, dummy. At this point, you're the one who owes me a date," he said, his voice low and sultry. I nodded so hard I thought my head was going to fall off. 2 days later, we had our first date out of town as we did not want anyone to spy on us and make assumptions. We were only trying this out and did not want to have so many eyes on us. We found a babysitter for the kids and left early in the morning. There was a small fishing town I wished to visit, so we went there. The weather was perfect, clear skies with just the right amount of wind. We had a boat ride and then got some lunch. "Are you enjoying yourself so far?" he asked me as he dug into his food. He closed his eyes, savoring the taste. "Yes, this food beats 5-star restaurant food," I commented. I was over the moon, unable to believe my luck. "But I know someone else who can cook better," he responded. "Chrissy?" I said teasingly. "Ha ha ha, you silly," he said as he held my hand. We basked in the comfortable silence. No words were needed. I felt so at peace when I was around him and wished that we had done this earlier. We finished up eating and decided to do more activities on our itinerary, which included visiting the fishing pier and a romantic dinner later on. By the time we finished dinner, we were both extremely tired but happy. We drove straight home afterward. It has been so long since I had a day to myself away from work and parenting. Not that I hate parenting, I just needed a break for a minute, I said as we were driving home. It was pretty late, the stars lighting up the sky. We were both exhausted, but I was certain the drive went well. "Well, it is thanks to you that I managed to get out of the house. I enjoyed myself a lot." A small smile played on his face just as we re-entered our small town. It took him another 10 minutes to get to his house, where I had parked the car. Once he turned off the engine, he looked at me. His gorgeous eyes told me all that I needed to know. All day we had been on the verge of kissing, but got interrupted every single time. It was also not in my nature to do PDA, so I tended to avoid it. We sat there looking at each other for a moment, and then he leaned closer. "I had a very good date with you. We should do it again," he stated as his gaze drifted to my lips. My body moved off my own accord, and I gave him a peck just to test the waters. As I was pulling back, he tangled his hand in my hair and pulled me back to him. Our first kiss brought intense feelings back to me, feelings I did not think I would feel again. I felt very much like I had been starved all along, and now he was giving me my first bite of a feast. I could never get tired of kissing him. It was too good. It made me forget the world and see only him for those small moments. I have no idea how long we sat there, but it was a long time. By the time we left the car, I was feeling giddy like a teenager who had just kissed their crush for the first time. Before I got to my car, he called me back. I turned and gave him a questioning look. "So, are you keen to join me for bowling next week?" he asked hopefully. He looked so shy asking me, which I found so adorable. "Of course, that can be our second date. We can discuss it tomorrow, but right now, I have to get home," I responded. "One last kiss?" he pouted, and of course I obliged. I barely caught sleep that night because I was so happy. I had forgotten that love could feel this good. I knew it was early days, but I had a good feeling about August. He had proven over and over again that he was a kind, peaceful man. With all the chaos I had gone through, peace was much needed. With that thought, I drifted off to sleep with a smile on my face. I looked forward to exploring this with him even more. August and I kept our relationship on the down low as we got to know each other. Our kids were the first people to find out since they knew us best. Eventually, we stopped hiding it from people. We did not make a huge announcement about our relationship. We let it be known with our actions. The end. Have you ever had a crush that seemed impossible? Thanks for watching. Consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to support our Rainbow Force. And stay wholesome.